What's up guys, Intelitech Studios here, and today we're going to be doing the full review on the Shark Navigator Freestyle Cordless Upright Stick Vacuum. Now, this machine is available in this white color, and it's also available in a purple and grayish color, and that one is referred to as the Shark Rotator Freestyle. Despite the different names, they are an identical machine, and Shark has been selling this machine for about a decade now. So, this particular machine has been tried and true. It's been on the market for a very long time, but as of late, it's been foreshadowed by some of Shark's more premium offerings. So if you have one of these, or if you're considering getting one, maybe you don't necessarily need all the premium features of a lot of the other Shark stick vacs, or maybe you just simply want an upright style and don't need tools or anything. You're just wanting something to maybe keep in your kitchen to pick up the crumbs off the floor or something like that, and you're not really concerned about really anything else, then maybe this is a machine that you would consider. So in that case, let's go ahead and do the full review on this Shark Navigator Freestyle. I've owned this machine for about a year now, and I've actually been using it as my daily stick vac, at least my daily upright style stick vac, or at least I was up until a few months ago, honestly. When I was at my old house, I used this machine quite a bit, but I very quickly retired it in favor of my Hoover Lynx. And there's a few reasons why, and as of late I haven't been using it at all. And the reason why I mainly stopped using it is because it just kept having issues with loss of suction. Now, I will go ahead and describe those issues really quick just in case your machine has those issues, so you can see if it's something that you think you'll be concerned about, or if it's enough to potentially dissuade you from getting the machine, just so you have every bit of information you could possibly need from a review like this. So the issue that I was having with mine is, despite the filter being clean and the bin being relatively empty, this machine used to have an issue where it would clog all the time. And it would actually clog so quickly that I didn't even know that it clogged. I just assumed that it was losing suction for some unknown reason, because if I was only using it for 2 days and I had only used it for maybe 15 minutes in total, then why would I expect the thing to get clogged if I wasn't picking up any large debris? At least not anything where it would seem like something that would get clogged in it. So that was the main issue that I kept having. So what I kept having to do is, and I'll show you how to do this in case your machine gets clogged, there's a little button right back here. So you press this button and pull the entire top assembly off. And once you remove the dirt container, there's a little inlet right here, and there's also the entry point to that inlet here on the bottom. The motor is right in here, the main suction motor, and here is the pre-motor filter. This pre-motor filter is washable, and I will discuss that briefly in a sec. There is no post-motor filter on this machine, so this is not the best for filtration, but it is designed for quick pickups on bare floors and the occasional rug. It's not really designed to be deep cleaning carpets to the point where we'd be picking up such an amount of fine dust that this would be a concern. So basically this is pretty lightweight, and then once you get to the actual floor head, you can see that there is the inlet right here, and we can pull this down. There's no sort of release latch on this. You just simply step on the front and pull the machine backwards, and here you can look through and make sure there's nothing clogged in here. The inlet is right here in the middle, so it does have center feed suction, and you can actually use a coin right here to pull off this end cap and easily remove the brush roll for cleaning. And I'll actually demonstrate that real quick. So if you grab any sort of coin and you twist this to the unlock position, you can pull this cap straight off. Here you have access to the belt. You can't really get access from here to where it actually attaches to the mini motor that's inside this power head, but you can at least access the belt enough to pull the brush roll out. So you can pull the brush roll up and out like this, just pull it against the edge a little bit and it'll pop out, and then you can pull it back the other direction, and now you have access to the brush roll. So if there's any hair or threads that are wrapped up around this, you can very easily clear this off. And you can also check in this inlet and make sure there's nothing stuck in here. So once you have the brush out, you should be able to see right through it. Whenever the brush is out, you should be able to see from the other side. And if you can't, then that's how you know there's a clog. You stick a screwdriver in here and push the clog out, and you'll be back up and running. There's also this clear window right here, so you can clean this with some sort of cleaner if you want it to look really nice and look all nice and clean again, and it would probably help if this was in frame. My apologies for that. So hopefully you can at least see what I was talking about, where the brush roll right here is very easily removable. Then when you put it back in, there's a little geared section right on this side, and obviously that's where the belt would line up. So you basically put this back in here. You would line or I should say loop the belt around this geared portion where the belt rides. And there isn't a lot of wiggle room for this, but once you get that in, then you just kind of put the brush right back in here, line it up so that way this square part clicks in right here. And once you do that, you can line up the square part on this other side, pop it in place, and now the brush roll is in all the way. Now once you get the brush roll in, just take this little piece and hook it right against here, snap it down, and turn this little thing to lock it in place. You hear that click, and you just turn it with any basic coin. The bigger coin, the better. And there you go. Now another thing that this machine has is you can easily remove the battery. So if you just press this to the unlock portion right here, it's a bit hard to do with one hand. Once you put that into the unlock position, you can pull this sideways, and here's the battery. So the battery is easy enough to remove and replace. It just holds in right here with a basic cable. I will link replacement batteries in the description, so you can find those, and that'll allow you to replace the battery no problem. So if you have one of these and it's a good number of years old and it's not holding a charge anymore, you can thankfully find batteries for these pretty easily. Then you just slot this right back in and push this little lock into the locked position, and now that is locked in place. Also right here, right up here, you can see there are two little contacts right here, and this is what allows the machine to charge. So this machine comes with a charging dock that plugs into the wall. You just simply set this right on the dock and it charges. Obviously you would have it fully assembled when you do that. And of course that clicks right into place. There's a small filter right here. You can wash this under cold water and a drop of soap. These filters do get stained really easily though. Not much you can do about that. So that just kind of comes with the territory. You just simply put that back in once it's fully dry. When you do wash this, I recommend washing this, depending on your usage, about every 3 to 6 months, or just when this machine looks, or when this filter looks visibly dirty. Empty the bin whenever it gets to the full line. The full line is right here. It is a bottom empty bin. You can open up both sides of it, and there's this little piece right here. You want to make sure this is clean. And when you do wash this filter, you want to make sure it's dry for at least 48 hours, so it's completely dry. And you can pop the bin right back on. Then at that point, you can get up and running. So like I mentioned before, you push this down with your foot. There's no sort of release latch, and there's a switch right here. It's foot activated, and it says right here that the bare floor light is on this side and the carpet light is on this side. The only real difference is that the bare floor basically makes it to where the motor runs at less speed, which I actually disagree with. I would rather them just have it to where the bare floor mode simply shuts off the brush and operates it otherwise at the same speed, because this machine isn't very powerful enough to begin with, which obviously it's not designed to be, but that does make it to where it can struggle with picking up a lot of debris, and that's my biggest reason for retiring this machine, is that when I'm trying to suck up any sort of larger debris, it will not have the strength or the suction to pull it all the way up into the bin, and a lot of times it will get stuck in this corner right here on the way up, and that will cause it to clog very easily. So we turn this on. You see it's on carpet. Now it's on bare floors. The confusing thing is that the brush roll does spin both times, but it does appear to spin a little bit slower on the bare floor mode. So that is something to keep in mind. Whereas when you compare this to the Hoover Lynx, it's a lot more straightforward. With the Hoover Lynx, you actually have a fingertip control, a 1 and a 2, and the 1 is bare floors and the 2 is carpets. And the vacuum runs the same. The only difference is that the brush shuts off on bare floors. So if we turn it on 1, suction, brush roll. So on the Lynx, it's a lot more straightforward in terms of the way that it works. And one other thing that I like about the Lynx is that you don't have to set the entire vacuum on a dock. You can easily pull the entire battery out and charge the battery separately, which is really nice because it means that instead of having to buy 2 charging docks or having to replace the internal battery, you can simply buy 2 of these batteries or buy an extra, And you can always have one inside the vacuum so it's ready to go, and one charging, so that way no matter what, your vacuum is ready to go. And you can just keep the charging dock somewhere in your kitchen. You don't have to mount the machine on a wall anywhere like a modern stick vac. That's not an upright style, and you don't have to put the dock somewhere like I do with this Shark. So I do find that while the charging dock on this is somewhat handy, I think that the Hoover Lynx's approach to charging and the overall fingertip controls and all that feels like it's a bit more well thought out. And given the fact that the Shark is, in my experience, more expensive than the Hoover, I think that's what kind of gives me pause at recommending it. Plus, the Shark only has the basic cyclonic system that a lot of Shark uprights have, whereas the Hoover Lynx has an actual dual cyclonic cassette with a filter where the motor is actually above, so it's less likely for dust to be intruded into the filter. So both of these machines do work pretty well, and the Shark is definitely pretty decent. But another thing is that the Shark does have a swivel neck, so it does swivel, and the handle is actually relatively comfortable too. This is one of the more comfortable Shark handles that I've witnessed. And on the Hoover Lynx, you do get swivel as well, but the swivel doesn't have very much movement. You can tell this has a lot of the issues a lot of other swivel necks have. As you can see, when I try to use the swivel neck, the actual base, which is the actual thing that we're trying to swivel, is not moving very much at all. The actual body is what's really moving, so it's not really doing much other than just steering in a certain direction. It's not really a swivel neck. Whereas the Shark does have an actual swivel neck, and the Shark has a lot more movement, which I actually do like. Although it is still more awkward to use than the Hoover because of the way that it's balanced. So if you are concerned about a swivel neck, then the Shark Freestyle would be the better choice. And I know this is kind of turning into a comparison video more so than a review about the Shark. I did already do a review on the Hoover Lynx, but this is sort of just explaining the reason why I haven't been using the Shark as of late, because of its issues with clogging and the fact that it just doesn't seem to work as well as the Lynx. It's still a decent machine, and I will say that I managed to actually find one of these brand new in the box for only $30, and for that price, it's a steal, and definitely worth the asking price for it. In fact, I bought it because this machine that you see in front of you needed a charger, and buying that machine on clearance with everything with it was actually cheaper than buying I guess it was about the same price actually, as buying the charger and the charging dock, which is another thing. You have to actually buy the dock and the charger, which is an added cost. So I basically ended up just buying the brand new machine and then harvesting it for the charger. So I do have one of these, a spare one of these, brand new in the box, that doesn't have a charger with it now. But that is something where I did notice that the issues with this machine are not the best to deal with. And now, granted, it's still not a horrible machine, but again, that's considering the fact that I have the DreamTech T30, and that does perform a lot better than this machine. And granted, it is much more expensive. It's like 3 or 4 times more expensive, so I would expect it to be better. But it's just one of those things where this is a nice, lightweight stick vac, but if you are shopping for something within a few different brands, then the Lynx, in my opinion, is a better choice. Although the Lynx is kind of harder to find now. It's been replaced by the Hoover Lynx Signature Edition, which is the exact same machine, only in a dark black color. And that machine is identical to this version of the Lynx. And the Freestyle, like I mentioned, also comes in a purple color as well. So, and I do know some people that have these machines and really like them. Alright, so while this is a relatively deep pile carpet, and obviously this machine is not well suited for deep pile carpet since the brush does have very, very soft bristles in order for it to work on hard floors, we will test and see how well it does as surface debris on carpets. Because one thing that is nice about this machine is even though it obviously doesn't perform as well as a full-size upright, in some ways it is nice as a supplement to sort of get your sort of quick spills every single day, both on your carpets and bare floors, and then if you want to use your full-size vacuum to do a deep clean of your home every week or so, then that is where something like this machine comes in handy. Or if you do have a house where you have basically a very small, well, I guess not a house, but if you have like a very small one-bedroom apartment that's all floors and very short pile carpets, if you want to get this to basically take care of your floors, you could do that. Since obviously, while it doesn't have the best suction, and then obviously the brush roll doesn't do the best at deep cleaning carpets, it does do enough to where if you're picking up very light debris on floors, it does okay. But we'll see that in a second. So I will do this test on both carpets and bare floors, but for now, we're going to try it on carpets and see how well it does at picking up these potato flakes. One other thing that I don't like about the way this switch is that when it's in the carpet mode, you have to switch it to bare floors before you turn it off. So I constantly find myself having to push the button multiple times to get it to go into the mode that I want. But as far as looking at this, so it did leave a good amount of potato flakes in the carpet. I did just do this test with the Eureka the Boss Power Plus. You can see especially on the edge right here, there's a lot more potato flakes than at the beginning here, but there is still a good amount of flakes still in the carpet. But honestly, considering that how low powered this machine is, it didn't do as bad as I would have thought. So at getting small particles off of the surface of carpets, sure, it still left a good amount behind, but considering how low powered it is, you could go over this a few more times and probably get the rest of it, at least enough to where what little bit is left, like I said, you can get with your main vacuum. So one interesting thing about this that I mentioned as far as weight, because the motor is towards the front of the brush, there are some times when I'm going to pull the machine back and it actually lifts up off of the floor. Now this is not a unique problem with, or I should say this is not a problem that only this machine has. A lot of Shark machines do have this problem, especially when you use a dual clean Shark in lift away mode. The power head will want to lift up off the floor while you try to pull it back. So it did still leave a good amount of potato flakes in the carpet, but it did get a good amount of it, and I'm satisfied with that result. So now we're going to go ahead and move this to bare floors and see how it does. Alright, so now we're going to do this same test, this time on hard floors. So it does have a small gate in the middle of the front of the nozzle, so we will see how that affects it, and we will put this on bare floor mode, which means we'll have to press the button twice. Okay, so looking back behind the unit, I don't see any scattering. It didn't drop anything out of it. So looking at the floor, yeah, there is some of this left behind. Hold on, let me rub this off my pants because there was some of this that was actually outside of the path that I actually did with this, so obviously it'd be unfair to count that because it didn't actually run over that. So I'm going to run this right in the middle of this path, and there are a few of these particles left, which is not, on a hard floor it's a lot less forgivable than it is on a carpet, because you're just picking up surface debris off of a flat surface. It shouldn't be that difficult for a machine to pick that up. And unfortunately the Shark does leave a little bit to be desired, and given the fact that this thing can sometimes be in the $150 to $180 price range, that leaves a lot to be desired. It's not horrible. It didn't leave that much behind, but it's still left more behind than I would like. And there's literally only a little bit of stuff in the canister. The filter is clean. I did wash it before I did this video, so it's not the best. But I will try this again and try to get the last bit, especially since there was a little bit that was outside of the path that I initially did. Excuse my squeaky floors. So now we'll check this again. Okay, that time there is still a bit of the really fine material left, but there's there's so little of it that I wouldn't even really consider that a problem. So as long as you're willing to take multiple passes whenever you actually do see some debris on floors or on carpets, this thing will get the job done to at least a satisfactory degree. So anyways, in that case, is this machine something that is worthy of a potential recommendation? Well, here's the thing. Even though this review, at least at the beginning, came off as a little bit negative since I was mainly focusing on the reasons why I stopped using this machine and its flaws, I do think that for the right person, for the right circumstances, for the right price, this would be a decent supplemental machine to another vacuum cleaner. Now, should it be your only machine? No. Because even if you were in a scenario like I mentioned, where you have like a one-bedroom apartment with all floors, maybe like the occasional very thin pile rug or two, you still would need something, you would still need something in addition to this to get your upholstery and get it up into corners, because the edge cleaning on this is non-existent. It's mainly just for spot messes, not like wet spot messes, obviously dry spot messes, and it definitely is something where if you get it for a really cheap price, like if you get this thing for under $60, or maybe a little bit over that, and you're buying this as a supplemental machine to kind of keep the crumbs maintained in between your weekly vacuumings, this is something you want to use every day to get what little crumbs you drop just to keep the house clean until you do your actual deep cleaning, then this would serve that purpose very well. And if you want something in that category that is an upright style, you don't necessarily need tools because you're going to get that during your weekly vacuuming with your main vacuum anyways, and you want something supplemental that's not going to break the bank, and these two are really the only option in that price range, because a lot of the other stick vacs that you're going to find are going to be much more expensive, or at the very least, even if you get the really cheap ones that are the same price, they're going to be usually from no-name brands. And even if they're not, you might still prefer the upright style and not a stick vac that's basically a handheld with a stick attached to it where you'd have to actually mount it somewhere or risk it falling over. These obviously stand up on their own, and they're pretty decent options. Now, like I mentioned, my choice between these two is still the Hoover, but I don't use either of these anymore, and specifically for the fact that they just do leave a little bit of stuff behind, and I'm the kind of person where I would rather just deep clean the entire house as far as floors go every single day. Now, I'm weird, and I'm a vacuum collector, and I enjoy vacuuming, so that's not going to be a use case for the vast majority of people. So if you are someone that is looking for something supplemental that you can use and pull out every day to vacuum up little crumbs and odds and ends here and there in between your main vacuumings, where you don't need a lot of the extra frills, you just need something that does enough, then again, if you get either of these, or especially the Shark, if you get this for a good price, like I said, around $60 or under, maybe $80 depending on where you find it, then it can be an okay option. But I wouldn't pay a penny over $80 for this. In fact, I wouldn't pay a penny over $100 for this Hoover, and I know because that's how much I paid for this Hoover. And for this Shark, I wouldn't pay, you know, a penny above 75 for it, because I do think the Shark is of lesser quality than the Hoover, even though there are some benefits like the swivel neck that are better on it. And you know, I think that there is a reason why both these machines are kind of being phased out, and why there are other machines of different styles that are kind of replacing it. But again, for the right person, this could be supplemental, but for me, it's just not. So while its performance is perfectly adequate for the price, and especially given the convenience, I wouldn't pay full price for this, and I don't suggest that you do either. So anyways, this is Intelitech Studios with my full review of the Shark Navigator Freestyle and the comparison to the Hoover Lynx Cordless as well. So this Shark machine, I will say that is one thing that I just got reminded of. The Hoover is a little bit more back heavy, so it is more likely to tip backwards, whereas this one's a little bit more stable. So that is one advantage this Shark has over the Hoover as well. So anyways, this machine, I will link it in the description, as well as the Hoover Lynx. Any parts that I can find for this Shark, I will also link in the description in case you have one of these and you need some parts for it. Because there are some of these that are a decade old at this point, and maybe you'll find one off the side of the road that needs a few parts, and you can maybe get it back up and running again. Because for free, or for you know, free plus the cost of one or two parts, this thing is excellent. So if you do have one of those situations, then I could definitely suggest picking it up. So again, Intelitech Studios signing out. Links in the description. I will see you guys in the next video. I hope you enjoyed this review. And like I said, this is one of those machines that I just straight up forgot that I even had, because I've been using other machines and it just kind of rotted away in a corner in my kitchen. So I will be cleaning this up and selling it. Obviously, that means that I'm going to have to include the charger that came with the new one that I've been using with this, which means that I will have a brand new one of these sitting around that doesn't have a charger, but that's fine. So anyways, this is Intelitech Studios signing out. See you guys in the next video, and I hope y'all have a good one. Peace. Also, if you do have this machine, let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. Same story with the Hoover Lynx that I mentioned. And yeah, what do you guys think?